We go. Hi there, my name is Kendrick, and today I get to interview Arel. So Arel, welcome, dude.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, good to have you. Could you please let everyone know what your official full type is?
Yeah, so I'm an ISTP, visual TISE, consume sleep, play blast, number three.
Gotcha. And then what did you think and how did you feel when you got your typing results?
Uh, it was interesting because I was sort of expecting I guess the way they sort of I guess it's like anti-hype almost, where it's like, oh, your type is gonna shock you and it's gonna be like horrible or something. But when I got it back, I was like really just giddy. I was like really excited and like it also very much clicked everything into place. Like there were a lot of things I was tossing around, especially with my functions at the bottom, like the modality thing that like kind of confused stuff. Like something about the masculine functions at the bottom, like it's not quite a glass lizard effect, but you know those functions are a lot more visible.
Right. Well, why don't we discuss that? Because your first function or your first animal, sorry, is double feminine and your last one's double masculine, right?
Mhm.
And you have an interesting type because visuals in general are more rare than the other sexual
Mhm.
modalities. So your first animal is double feminine, double activated, ST consume, which is really interesting because it makes you very soft and friendly, I guess, on the front end because of the double
Yeah,
feminine, double activation there. Can you share a little bit of how you experienced that?
yeah. I guess it's a little weird because it's like the the feminine functions are very kind of invisible. They're very like airy, but it's also that's also running like constantly. So it's kind of this, I don't know, it's like a bunch of gears that are running like very smoothly. So you like can't feel them, but like I don't know, I guess as they run more and more, it kind of you start to feel the exhaustion of them, I guess. So less so the functions themselves, but the yeah, the just the constant running is kind of a lot. Um, yeah, it's very hard to describe. I think feminine functions in general are like they're very particular and minute and just hard to put into words, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, especially for you because you're blast last. So that doesn't help your situation
Yeah,
at
doesn't.
all. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I guess it sets the bar higher. I think like something with the lower your blast, the less you want to kind of truncate things because it feels like you're losing all that detail. But yeah, I've you know in the past few years I've come to appreciate blast a lot more, especially with some of the friends I've made.
gotcha. Um, well, the first thing that comes to my mind is we are similar in some sense because I also have double feminine as my first animal and double masculine as my last.
Hmm.
For me personally, with that double feminine NT play of mine, I did notice that over the many years of using that double activated double feminine NT play of mine, that it has actually improved quite a bit to the point where, yes, it's still double feminine, it's still insecure, it's still movable, but I have a little bit more certainty because I use it so much. So do you feel the same way about your double feminine, double activated ST consume, where the fact that, it's double activated, you're using it all the time, that, you know, over time you kind of just learn to kind of trust yourself that whatever it is that you have consumed is accurate, that you can trust yourself to remember whatever it is that you have consumed that is ST in nature?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. It's I guess there are certain ways in which it was already fairly robust. I think I guess over the course of my life through like different eras, I guess I'm sort of searching for different ways to refine myself, and so I think the um basically since COVID, basically, I think it's been more about like I've had this giant stockpile and it's already kind of doing its thing. So it's kind of taking that and finding ways to like harness it and make it more efficient. So it's not just kind of floating endlessly. If that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, in some way it does. But maybe you can explain it better when we talk about your second animal, anti-sleep. So
Yeah.
you are double activated TI as a result of this, and in a
Mhm.
savior state as well. So you're like a super thinker. I am similar to you in in that sense because I'm play blast as an ENFP. So I'm NTST while you are STNT, right? Um, so how do you personally experience that second animal of yours, that masculine NI, with a feminine TI,
Mhm.
anti sleep? Can you share?
Yeah. Yeah. I think my NI is kind of like at least internally is like the most obvious piece about me because it's like yeah, the masculine NI is very like gravity almost, like kind of it just kind of takes things and just like crushes them and like uh peels off all this superfluous detail and kind of forces conclusions in a way, but it's like there's more abstract ones. They're like yeah, I guess it's very hard to put into words. Yeah, it's like it does give a lot of structure to like the TI because like on its own, if I'm just raw thinking about stuff, it kind of just it's exploring all the iterations of things, like all the different ways something could flow out. But I think yeah, that NI kind of saves it in a way. What is it gives a point to it. It gives the structure. Um, but yeah, I think that sleep is it's sort of the main way I feel in my experience, like less so the consume because that's so gaseous and so huge almost. It almost like feels bigger than me, but the sleep is more manageable and it's kind of yeah, it is the main way I'm processing things, which I guess is what it's for, really.
So you feel more
Yeah.
grounded in that anti sleep than the ST consume
Yeah,
in a way.
which is funny because it's a intuition. So it's like you think it wouldn't be grounded, but I guess that's something I've noticed with masculine functions. I don't know if you feel this way, but they feel kind of like people's anchor to the world almost. Yeah, a little strange.
Well, we can talk about that later with your uh double masculine NF blast. But
Hmm.
I have double masculine SF sleep personally, and I think the
Hmm.
one thing that I've never had any uncertainty with was what I wanted. Like I've always known what
Uh-huh.
I valued, what I wanted. I could say it with a lot of certainty. Uh, and I have always found it strange, even though I have Demon FI and I have SF Sleep Last. I've always found it weird. Like people don't know what they want. That's kind of weird. I've always known it, even though it's my fort, like animal, just because it's double masculine, like it's kind of like grounding, like it's solid. You can't move it.
Yeah.
Um, so I think your NI sounds kind of like that, where like the NI is grounded because like, oh, the patterns you've organized, they're solid, or even about yourself, like the recurring pattern that is true about yourself. At least the pattern part, maybe you'll feel quite certain
Hmm.
and confident, but maybe not about like whether that's true or not, because the TI is flexible, right?
Yeah, yeah, I've found over time, I am kind of like reusing the same patterns over and over, or like well, I am like slowly getting more like newer I mean, I almost call them tools, but I guess Shan did one of those. I don't know if you've watched those live streams she does of like explaining different parts, but the particular visual of masculine NI as like stalactites, that was like I got that immediately. I very much feel that way. It is, yeah, it is just building on the same things over and over again. Um, yeah, it feels weird because like typology is sort of a brainworm that's been in there for a while, and it's like not until the past few years that it's like kind of popped off, but like all that infrastructure was kind of already there.
So, based on that stalagmite analogy that you pointed out that Shan was discussing,
Mhm.
uh, using that framework, what would you say is your recurring pattern that is true about yourself that you've kind of organized over the years, where it's like, oh yeah, that is true. Like this is I do this all the time, like or like I am like this, or whatever it is, how
Uh,
you define it personally.
yeah, that's very tricky. It's very big. Like there's quite a lot to explore, even in just oneself, but also how that connects to everybody else and like what their patterns are. Uh, I guess I would say this is partly because I'm a lead DI, but it's also kind of like uh have a very strong sense of the sort of person I am and the kinds of things I should be doing and the kinds of conduct I should sort of come at everything with, I suppose. So it's sort of like, yeah, I guess I've come to trust myself with being, uh, I guess, sort of like leading with trust in sort of whatever interaction I'm having with people and doing a good job and sort of seeking. It feels very abstract, but it's like seeking the truest path almost. Like there's sort of a best way, best and smoothest way through different interactions, and I'm like always trying to adjust things in the small interactions to like make that happen and make it come to fruition. So it's yeah, it's very difficult to explain, but something like that, I suppose.
Gotcha. All right. By the way, I think we're having a little bit of an observer problem here. Can you see me still?
Oh yeah, yeah, I can still see you. Yeah, I see my camera froze there.
Yeah, exactly. I was wondering what happened with your camera, but
I'm not sure. Here, let me try unplugging it, replugging it here.
sure, no worries. Okay, I see a teacup.
Yeah. Video. Okay, I can switch to a different one if I need to. I'm gonna get that out. I haven't used this newer webcam that much, so I don't know if it's actually good.
That's okay. I'm keeping the video rolling, by the way, because I think this is a perfect example of double observing where you're not freaking
Oh
out at
yeah.
all. Like you're just so
Oh
calm
yeah.
about this.
Uh-huh. A funny thing, I'm also I do music stuff. So I'm working on I did some covers recently and I'm working on getting those sorted. I've like hired a service to like try and get the copyright stuff for me. It's like weirdly not a big deal for me.
Yeah, that's
At least so
amazing.
at least the thing I'm worried about is like, oh, am I gonna get in trouble or something for this like copyright stuff? Okay, is this oh come on.
Oh, there we
There we go.
go.
That's
Awesome.
I might need to turn my light on so I'm actually lit better. Getting this adjusted is tricky.
Dude,
Okay,
it,
it's gonna
it's
be a
so
lower angle.
dude, it's so awesome that you don't even freak out like this is happening. Because like if I was interviewing like an IJ,
Okay, there's something.
Yeah, like as I was saying, like if I was interviewing like an EP or IG, they would be freaking out right now. But for you, it's like,
Oh yeah,
whatever. It's
no problem.
yeah, no worries. So, like we got a live like demonstration of what double serving looks like. So I think that's like awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Fuck it, we bowl.
yeah. Well, let's talk about your third animal. Let's talk about
Mhm.
your SF play third. Okay. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. How do you experience that? And your third animal is kind of aligned. Um, well, maybe not aligned, but let's go with that first. So, how do you experience your third animal SF play?
yeah. I guess it's I guess it's sort of pragmatic in a way. It's like very it's something I can slip into if I need to. Um yeah, it feels pretty natural at the same time. I kind of it is something I would prefer not to do a lot of the time. Like I guess if we're talking about like activities and things, I usually favor the sleep of like, nah, I'm gonna stay home and just keep chilling. But uh yeah, it's I guess it's I am able to be dragged into things, I suppose, and I'm not really bothered by it. Um, and I guess it's has a lot to do with how I just kind of vibe, I suppose. I just put it that way. It's just kind of because it has that SE where it's just anything that's coming at me is whatever. Yeah, just the physical vibe. I guess that is the SF kind of. Um, I'm not quite sure how the like the masculine FE in particular is changing things, versus if it was feminine. Um, I guess it can make things a little funnier in some ways because I do have it's like a further down function, but it does still have that abruptness to it. So I've found there's sometimes where people find it funny that I say something so directly, even if it's like a joke or something.
I interviewed an FM ISFJ in the past, and she said that with masculine FE, she is storing people's emotions. So even though she
Oh
is
yeah.
not in the same room as them anymore, if she, for example, spend time with an individual and she knows that that individual is suffering, then she can't help but feel for that person, even if that's not her emotion specifically. Like she stores it in that masculine FE. So do you see yourself doing
Mhm.
that? Like let's say you go to like a social event and maybe, you can absorb both the positive and negative emotions, I guess you could say with the FE, and you can think
Mhm.
about it when you are at home. Like, do you see yourself doing that? Like kind of storing it, even though you're not in that situation anymore?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, for I mean this sort of plays into what I thought my original type was, but it was like um the FE, yeah, it really is like the masculines again, but like that FE is like a big part of my experience. Like, um, yeah, I'm constantly like worrying about like what other people are feeling and but it is sort of like biased negatively, where it's kind of like I kind of just want it to go away. Like, uh, I need to find ways to get this to stop, and that kind of like hijacks my savior functions a lot of the time. But yeah, it is this feeling of like I can't really rest until all the vibes are settled with everybody. Yeah.
Do you think that's helping you though as a TIFE access person where like the TI supposedly abused too much but like the FE needs to be used more but because of that masculine FE you're storing all these emotions that other people have, you're forced to address it, otherwise you're going to be stuck with it like in your
Uh-huh.
own like room, right? Like so you're like so it's
Yeah.
like I have to fix this or I am also trapped.
Yeah. I think it's sort of like skewed a little. Like in some ways it does um it does force, in a practical sense, things to be better. But there are other ways. Like I am still like avoiding it, so it's like it's kind of like half jammed halfway, like a lot of the time, where it's like some issues are getting resolved and then others are still piling up. Depending on how much I'm able to um, get out of that, loop and just like do something about it. Uh, yeah, so it's kind of weird, but I'd say it both helps and is painful.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely see that. But I think if I were to look like a spectrum of you and like other people, like other ISTPs in particular, you're probably doing more by because you have to, just because of that masculine FE. Which is good because then as a result, you'll probably get more tribe jubilee also as a
Yeah,
result. Like have you seen yourself getting like some tribe jubilees because you are taking the time, even if you don't want to, and even if you're doing it only like half the time to like address some tribe uh negative emotions, like even if you're doing it for yourself, like are you still getting some
yeah.
tribe jubilee as a result?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, as far as like who I actually am, like to everybody else, like I've very rarely gotten any negativity at all. Like mostly just praise for, things I do. There's a part of me that like it gets kind of a complex about it. I think because like the DI is like I'm aware of how much it's getting fed almost, so I'm like worried about like, you know, getting a big head or like, becoming this huge jerk or something. Um so yeah, I guess the balance between those two is kind of uh it's like technically healthy, but like the energy is like very anxious. So I'm trying to work on being more calm about it, I guess. Like because it is fine, it is working. So yeah, I'm just trying to adjust how I'm feeling about it, not worrying so much because yeah, like practically speaking, there aren't any problems really,
Gotcha. Well,
at least for the most part.
I think for your type, it'll always be a problem because FE is your fourth function, right? So, like,
Yep.
it will never truly go away. It'll always be like the triggering part about your type, and just like with me, with my SI, it's like it'll always be triggering, even if I'm doing something about it, it'll still trigger me, right? So,
Uh-huh.
uh, just from like default wiring perspective. Um,
Yeah.
but let's talk about your last animal since we're talking about like something that's touching your fourth function, which is
Uh-huh.
FE and also the NI, double masculine NF blast. This is a
Yep.
very interesting topic because like we're doing this interview right now. I'm actually in Africa and there's like an INFJ here in this guest house I'm staying at. So I was like listening
Mhm.
to the guy talk about like so much interesting things about like NIFE. Like he was saying stuff like he's gonna go teach in this orphanage here in Africa, and that's gonna make like the kids there emotionally healthy in the future. So it's like the NI is like the future, and the FE is like the emotion, and he's like,
Yeah.
it's like it's not gonna affect them a lot, like in the present time, but over time, because of like that NIFE advice that he's taught them or provided them, then their life is going to be emotionally better. It's like a weird.
Mhm.
It's like I think it's a really powerful animal if utilized correctly. Um, in terms of like helping other people. But like, how do you personally see yourself using that double masculine NF blast?
Mm. I guess it's sort of guiding what what I do. I mean, I guess it's sort of a bit like that conduct thing I was talking about, like how I'm carrying myself, but sort of I am sort of looking at the impact of, what the specifics of the things I'm doing, the things I'm making and such. What is the actual emotional impact of that? And like, is it good? Am I making something good that's gonna like spread, positivity in some way? Um, or is there something like toxic in there? Like, am I because that sort of thing, yeah, it is very much the future thing and sort of that gravity, where it's like you don't want to pigeonhole into into these bad places that are really hard to like dig yourself out of. And you don't want to influence people in ways that are not good. You don't want to promote things that, yeah, you just don't, you don't want to promote toxicity, and yeah, it just kind of pulls on everything. It's really hard to put into words the scale of it, but yeah, I do feel it constantly. You know, I thought I was like NIFE was like my top two functions, but I got the functions correctly, just not the order of them.
Right. Well, you got the Jesus look going, which is like, David Shan said like, what Jesus is like, it's like an FM INFJ, right? And like the
Yeah,
double masculine NF plus. So you kind of have like a little bit of that,
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, all right. One last question I have for your fourth animal, and this one is an interesting question because I've asked this question to other people that has NF last. The difference though
Mhm.
is you have double masculine NF last, right? So, NF is abstract, it's hard. It's if you don't have it in a savior state or even in the first three animals, it's kind of hard to believe it's even real. But a lot of people that I've interviewed that has NF last, right? They don't believe NF is real. A lot of them don't, right? Some of them do, but most of them
Mhm.
don't, right? But yours is interesting. It's double masculine. So a part of me feels like you are able to see it just because it's double masculine. Maybe there's a
Oh
part
yeah.
of you that doesn't want to believe it's real, but you can't help but believe it's real. But I want to hear what your perspective is on this. Like, do you believe NF is real? And how do you pick up that NF vibe, essentially, from your perspective?
Yeah, I think I've never had a problem believing that more abstract stuff. I guess I just don't know what it is a lot of the time, and because I'm ST first, I kind of have to like qualify it, and like so yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of has to be like nested within the structure of like here's how it like actually works. So like yeah, I've noticed a big difference between like sensors and intuitives is like even if a sensor is talking about abstract stuff, they're kind of treating it as if it is a real thing that exists somewhere, and it's like I could totally prove this and like point directly to it. I just can't right now because it's somewhere else. But like, even though it is abstract, it like literally doesn't exist. It's a pattern type thing. Um, yeah, I think I've always been aware of it and tuning into it in some ways, but just it's very hard to interact with directly, I guess, without feeling cheesy in a way. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, it's a weird one.
Well, I think you're doing it right because, in my opinion, like people that has NF in a savior state and then ST last, I think they are misusing that NF because it's not validated by reality, which is horrible, right? Like for me, for example,
Yeah.
I have ST and NF as my middle animals, so I'm a huge believer in NF, but I do make sure it's validated by ST, or at least I can see it being eventually validated by the ST just because of the patterns I have personally have gathered, right? Um,
Mhm.
so I think for you, you're kind of doing like a makeshift STNF axis kind of deal because your ST is double feminine, so it doesn't have like that strong gravitational pull to it. But then your NF, even though it's
Mhm.
last, it has a strong gravitational pull to it. So it's kind of like, I know it's real. I'll go find evidence to prove it's real. Um,
Mhm.
I might forget the evidence because it's all feminine, but you're still gonna try. It's kind of like that
Yeah.
weird relationship between those two um, opposite animals, you could say.
Mhm. Yeah. I have found to um yeah, the intuition being masculine, it really and I guess you know the feeling as well. It really makes the ST kind of like I'll technically be speaking in ST, but it doesn't sound like it because it's not because what's usually expected is the like is very concrete and direct facts and very unmoving logic. I think, when people think of ST, it's more like that. Um, but yeah, it's kind of like it has to like it's being forced into the shape of NF, even though it is like ST. It's like a chameleon or like some kind of blob creature or something. That's like it doesn't have a shape to it, but it's taking on the shape of other things. It's very strange.
Yeah, no, definitely for sure. Like I've been talking to you now for a bit, and like I have noticed that I'm like your ST, it doesn't feel like you're doing ST because it doesn't seem
Yeah,
that aggressive. It's so weird.
it's really just about like the qualification of it. Like I think when it comes to typology, especially with other people who are into it, it feels easier to I don't feel as much that I need to qualify it. Um, but I am still kind of explaining how it is working, I guess. I'm still I've yeah, I keep saying things and then I need to search for like wait, I need to validate this somehow. Like I'm pulling on the sensory, but it's like there's nothing there. And second guessing the logic as well. Like, am I actually making this clear? Um so yeah, just it, it's this endless floating cloud that's like trying to convince you it's there even when you're in the middle of it. It's really yeah, really weird.
Yeah, no, I can see that being challenging, especially like you have your first two functions as feminine and your bottom third and fourth is masculine. So it's it's like
Yeah.
it's almost like you can't use your supposed super weapons, which is the
Yeah.
SC and TI, like you have to use your demons
Yeah.
because those are the masculine ones, but they're like the container for their growth is a lot smaller than your
Mhm.
um than the first two. So it's kind of like you're kind of like you'll have less life problems for sure. Like I mean, in terms of like
Mhm.
intense problems, but you'll be more at uneasy than compared to your like double masculine ST uh consume brothers and sisters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I've noticed a lot of the ISTPs with the masculine TI. It's like, especially right now, like I'm feeling the contrast where it's like they really do have a lot more certainty and can just kind of say things confidently. Um, whereas I'm very much struggling with that.
Yeah. All right, dude. I also want to ask you about being like a visual tester. Can you share a little bit about your experience with that? Like, having a visual memory or learning through visuals and followed by tester, which is correlated with smell?
Yeah. So um, initially I thought it would have been an audio, and this was before like I realized how much impact um the sexuals really have. But that was mostly because my main thing is like the is making electronic music and stuff. So it's like I'm working with audio constantly. But since getting that type back and like seeing it play out, I am like, oh yeah, I am like leveraging visuals a lot of the time. Like when I'm working, even if I'm working with audio, I'm kind of leveraging that as like it's not as if I'm literally seeing things, but it is I'm treating it as if I am. It's like as if it's a thing I could look at and it's like right there in front of me. Um, so it's yeah, I've noticed the modalities are kind of like larger than they're presented and more abstract. So like the way that audios are engaging with things is much more lo-fi and direct and yeah, like a wave. It is these like movements and things. Um, I guess I will say I have, and this is something other people have noticed with me as well. I do have a very good sense of color and like um because that was something I did early on growing up was I was doing a lot of drawing and yeah, a lot of that stuff still holds up pretty well. I mean, for for something a kid is doing, but as far as the color balance goes and everything, um, yeah, it's something I don't do that often, because it's just I don't feel the need to be working with visuals. It's just kind of a hobby, or if it comes up, I do it. But yeah, I found I'm a lot stronger with that, and despite having worked with audio for like 10 years now, I'm still like not that good at it. Like um the results I'm getting, by the time a project is finished, it's pretty good, but getting there is like a huge pain. Whereas I've noticed audios they just kind of immediately get the balance of all the elements right when they're making a mix without even trying. And it's like, how did you do that? Because like I go in there, I make something, it sounds good in the moment, but then returning to it, it's like, oh, this I'm gonna have to fix everything. And it's like that's the process right up until the end. I keep having to adjust things because something is off. But I haven't had that issue with visuals. Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed it more since getting my type. Um the tester, I don't know. I'm unsure about that one. That one, I guess because it is like the most fluffy and intangible one. Yeah, I'm unsure of how that's playing out, especially because like I don't exactly have a strong sense of smell or taste compared to a lot of people, really. Where um but I do think I have a sense of texture. Like I think that when it comes to like food and things, that's the thing I noticed that's like off or that I like don't like is like it is the texture of it. Like something's like too chewy or something is I don't know if you noticed this at all, but like you might try out a new drink and it's like something's weird about this compared to like other ones. So yeah, I don't know. That one's odd, but I'll have to pay attention more to that one, I suppose.
It almost feels like a combination of the tester and the kinesthetic, because the kinesthetic is like a lot of it's like touch, right? So it's like you're talking about the texture and stuff. So it's like the taste and the smell and the touch and the feeling, because
Yeah.
you have those two in the middle, right? Like the tester and the kinesthetic. So
Yeah,
it
yeah, I do.
feels
I do forget that sometimes. It's that kinesthetic is still kind of up there in a way.
yeah, it's not missing. You can use it. So it sounds like when you're describing like the texture of the food, it's kind of like a mixture of there is a taste aspect to it, and there's also the kinesthetic aspect of it. And like there's like you don't like some of the kinesthetics, then you can kind of like describe it.
Yeah, yeah. I think there are times where like I might be um I might be enjoying a food, but if there's like something in there, some kind of a weird crunch or yeah, again like chewy stuff like in the middle of something that shouldn't be like that, it's like kind of ruins the whole experience for me. It's like, all right, I need to like find where that thing is, cut it out, and just throw that whole chunk away. So it's like
Yeah.
it's no good. Like recently, I just do like ramen sometimes. The last few packets have had like these weird bits that are like they don't dissolve correctly, so it's like just a chunk of like the noodles that are still stuck together. And it like looks weird and kind of creeps me out. So I don't take any chances. I just get rid of that.
Right. I think it's interesting because you have a tester above kinesthetic. So definitely the kinesthetic is playing a huge part in that, but the
Mhm.
tester comes first. Well, for me, being an audio kinesthetic person, I also have those two in the middle, like the kinesthetic and the tester. but I do
Uh-huh.
notice like I have more tolerance to like the texture of the food, even though it's not perfect, as long as it's like it's good, like good enough kind of deal. Like for example, like I'll use Chinese food as an example, like sweet and sour pork, for example, right? You know, like you can have it like soft or crunchy, right? And then ideally the best sweet and sour pork is like a crunchy one with like the sauce in it, and you eat with the rice, and
Uh-huh.
that's like the perfect texture for it with a taste. But
Mhm.
if it's soft, it's still okay in my books, just because it's like, oh, it's
Uh-huh.
it's good enough, you know. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but anyways, just for the sake of time, I do want to move on and talk about the last part
Yeah,
here. Just the social
definitely.
type here. This is like the big one, like a lot of people are like interested in.
Yeah.
Um, so you kind of talk
Yeah.
a little bit about your demon friends already, you know, kind of like you rather stay home than like like I guess engage with the tribe.
Uh-huh.
You know, because like you have those ISTPs who are like number fours, right? And even if they're introverted, like they love hanging out with people, which is like so weird,
Uh-huh.
right? But you're like double introverted, but then you are not, you do have demon friends, so that's kind of like aligned, you know, with your type, you know.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And then David Chan recently said that like sleep is correlated with social type number three. It's still kind of weird though. A lot of people don't agree with it though, because like sleep kind of also feels like number one, you know, kind of like it's about me, right? DI.
Yeah, it's
So
it's still hard to say. But,
yeah. But
yeah.
let's just go with the basics then of the definitions.
Mhm.
Specialist. Like, can you share what your life is like being a specialist?
Yeah, I guess I do definitely feel the uh it is hard for me, like the idea of like changing a job or not seeing projects through all the way to the end, or like I mean the this probably isn't like necessarily a thing with it, but like I do feel it in the sense that I need to get the quality of things to at the very least 85%, if not higher. Like, because otherwise to me it's just like unacceptable. I don't know how much of that is specializing and how much is like TI. Um, but yeah, I guess it's like it's this very like project brain where it's like um I immediately see like the scope of the whole thing, what needs to go, well, you know, how much energy needs to go into it to like get it to where it needs to be. Um, so it's a lot of investment. It's a lot of investment in things. Um, it's weird because like the you know, Dave and Shane have recently cleared up you know, the one and the four a lot more with the internal external drive. So it now feels in this it now feels like those are ahead in terms of like understanding them versus the two and the three. It's like I don't quite know what those are doing. Like I have it's like I get it, but I don't know. Like there's nothing specific that works in every situation, I guess, as to like what they're doing. So it's a bit hard to say. Um, yeah, it's I do feel the internal drive though, that flex. It is that's a lot easier to see. I noticed I'm not it is like, you know, I need to there's like better versions of me, and it's just comparing myself against myself, kind of. It's like a self-competing type thing. Um, I guess with the ones, you know, it does seem like a lot of them are more competitive, at least, you know, if they have like more extroverted parts. Um, some of that probably has to do with that whatever that generalizing is doing. It's like this self drive first, and then it kind of like projects everywhere almost. It's like any field I'm in, it's like I got to be the best. So it kind of makes it more competitive versus other people. But with the specializing, I noticed it is much more. It's like it's just me. It's like I don't care who's like next to me, or like whether they think I'm trying to be better than them or whatever. It's like it's literally just me and like what I'm doing, which does seem to be dominated by that specializing. It's like it really is about doing that thing as best as I can, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, what I was thinking is maybe like that's like the introverted version of the flex, like you're like
Yeah,
competing with yourself more, or like you want your work to be better than the last work that you did. So you're competing with your past self, essentially.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It's hard to disentangle from my other introverted parts since I'm so stacked on the introversion. It's like,
yeah.
what is what?
Um, but like to the point that you mentioned about like twos and threes, it's kind of like, you said it's still a little bit ambiguous compared to like the ones and fours. But the one thing I was thinking recently about the ones and twos versus the threes and fours, like the generalist versus the specialist coin, essentially, is like I feel like ones and twos have a more macro focus, while like threes and fours has a more micro focus, like the threes and fours, their focus is honing on the craft essentially. It's not like ones and twos, like being a generalist means you're sloppy. It means you
Mhm.
are a perfectionist when it comes to managing things at a macro level. So, like, for example, like managing organizations, right? Like who's at what role to make sure that this role is being taken care of. And there is like a big uh, end goal, that the whole organization together as a whole is trying to go towards. And basically the ones and twos is trying to go towards it by using by planning ahead, the
Mhm.
macro organization, like all the different specialists where they fit in, how they're going to contribute to the greater goal, essentially, right? Although the big
Yeah.
difference though between the one and two is like one is obviously doing it for their ego, right? For their like a legacy, essentially. But like the twos, yeah, maybe they're doing a little bit of that, but there's definitely the friend coin kicks in where it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
I want to make sure people are taken care of, as well. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
but
it's sort of this like connectivity, it seems like, or like, there's those two extroverted social functions, the generalizing, the friends. It's like the friends, that kind of makes sense where it's like I need to this is a really a really weird way of putting it, but it's like it's almost like the fours need to like collect as much DNA as possible from like everybody. So it's like gathering all that, and like the ones is like I need to spread my DNA like everywhere kind of thing. And they're leveraging that generalizing. It's like I got to connect all the infrastructure that is like moving resources around, kind of, and like leveraging that to like get themselves out there. Yeah, yeah, I see what you mean about the macro. Like the twos, yeah, the twos. It's like they're not going higher with it. It really is just it's like maximum spread type thing almost. It's kind of weird.
Well, okay, here's the deal, dude. Because I'm a two, right? So I totally get like what's
Yeah,
happening with the twos.
I haven't seen enough of them really, but
Yeah, no, fair enough. But I mean, I think Dave did address it in one of his videos where like the ones, they have the demon friends, right? So they're willing to ditch people to get ahead, right? To get to the top. While like the twos, they don't want to ditch people. They don't want people leave people behind, right? But eventually they do. They
yeah,
get fed,
yeah,
they get fed up, right? Like especially when they get to their 40s, 50s, and 60s. We're like, all right, everyone's dragging me down. You know what? Screw all of you. I'm gonna do my own thing. It's all about me now. That's
yep,
when like the demon
yep,
flex kicks in, right? And they start like going up,
yeah,
right? Kind of like a number one. Like a lot of number twos actually reach like number one level. As a matter of fact, any type can be number one, like because like in my
yeah, yeah.
opinion, like the person that actually becomes number one is not always number one. It's like a combination of raw talent, hard work and dedication, putting the reps in. There's
Yeah,
also
yeah.
like network, like who who's gonna open a door for you, right? And then
Uh-huh.
also like luck, right? Like right place, right time, right? So I feel like you need to have like
Mm.
those four factors together to actually be like a true number one.
Yeah.
So you could be like a
Yeah,
number
there's quite a
one.
lot that goes into it.
Exactly, right. So if you're number one and you're striving to be the best
Mhm.
and you're like super competitive, you have the drive and stuff, and but
Mhm.
then you have no friends or like no network to
Yeah.
like open a door for you, you're really not gonna go very far, you know,
Yeah.
so there's
Yeah,
definitely
it's
like
kind of like the world doesn't really care what your type is because if you're not catering to the world in a way that actually lifts you up, it's like you get left behind no matter what type you are.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Or just maybe you're bad luck. Like you have lots of friends,
Yeah.
you have the talent, you have the drive, but like let's say it's like, oh, it's the pandemic, the world shut down, nothing's happening.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then it's
Yep.
like
Got to change gears.
so yeah, it's just like sometimes it's just bad luck, right? So um
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, I mean, that's definitely interesting. Like for me personally, as like a number two, I definitely have a lot of
Mhm.
appreciation for like the work the number three's trying to put in, and I'm trying to like learn more from it. Although like I also see like the
Mhm.
downside of like the number three, where it's like sometimes good enough is good enough. You need to like just ship it, or like just
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
definitely. I know that
Um,
feeling.
yeah, because it's like sometimes like you need the try feedback to actually refine it. So you can't just like
Mhm.
stick to your own like what's the word I'm looking for here? Like simulation or like like own like introverted work. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
have you seen a video they did with the Netflix CEO where he learned how to
I have not.
okay. Well, I won't ruin it, but basically he learned how to TE, where he's like ENTP, right? And he was like he
Hmm.
would spend like 2 months to like refine a process or like something. And then he
Hmm.
learned that like, you know what? If it was gonna work, it was gonna work. No matter how much refinement I did, like if I half-ass refine something and I put it out there and the tribe likes it or it works for the tribe, then that's the right thing to refine. So it's almost better to put
Yeah,
something
yeah.
half-assed, see like how the tribe reacts, and then like once
Mhm.
there's like the right reaction, then that's when you go dig like the TI, like the drill deep, right, and like really refine
Yeah,
it.
yeah. You do
You know what?
gotta find what you need to actually work on.
Yeah. So
Um,
like the Netflix CEO guy. Sorry to cut you off. I'll let you talk in a second. But like
yeah,
he
yeah.
so basically he said like, uh, you know, like when he was taking 2 months to put out something out, she says he just wasted 2 months. That's what basically was happening.
Yep.
It was better to just put something out like within 24 hours, get feedback, and then drill. Otherwise, you're
Yeah, yeah.
wasting time.
Yeah, yeah. That reminds me of I don't know if you're familiar with Valve at all and the games they make, but
Oh, Steam.
they learned, yeah, yeah, Steam. They learned pretty quick, like with their first game, that like they need that playtesting like immediately as soon as they can, because their first game, like they were like almost done with it and it like still sucked. Like they did playtesting like right at the end and then like ran out of time to like finish the last segment of the game. But like ever since then, it's like once the game is like playable and they're starting to make stuff, it's like we need like every single week we need playtests to like tell us what's actually working and what's not. And that did a lot. And like I've definitely come to appreciate that kind of thing a lot more. Like because it's otherwise you kind of you get stuck in, I guess you could call it more introverted functions where it's you're just you don't actually have a sense of what's actually good in all cases. It's just like your own thing that you're familiar with, and you're just kind of looping on it. And yeah, it's a lot of like useless work. It's like not really going anywhere. It's yeah, yeah, pretty much.
I think the old Blizzard did it right because they always had a beta test before they launched their game, right? And then
Yeah,
their
yeah.
end game is always like highly refined and like for the longest time, Blizzard was like one of the best like game developer. Like now they're awful, right? They're doing too much
Hmm.
there's no love in the
Yeah,
like it's just like kind of trying to print money now. I mean, Microsoft bought them, so maybe
yeah,
it'll be better. But like,
yeah. There's a lot less
you know,
craft going on.
yeah, they need some specialists to go back there and like put the love behind the work, Like we're
Yeah,
making
yeah,
this game, like the storyline has to be on point, the gameplay has to be on point. Like you have to always be making the game like you're the fan, like you're a fan of this game. Like you're making it for you.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah. Definitely.
yeah, I think that's what number threes are doing right, honestly. It's like you guys are doing it for you. Like you're doing
Hmm.
it as like a fan yourself. Like for example, you make your music, right? You're probably making it's like the kind
Yeah,
of music that you want to listen to personally, right?
definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's kind of funny too because it's like early on I had a lot of worries of like, oh, am I just like copying other things or like what am I even making? But like pretty quickly, like my own style like started to form. Um, and to like listening back to like my older stuff, it does hold up pretty well because I was refining it in a way that it's like I don't like this yet. It's like something's off. It's not quite there. It's not to that level yet. But putting that time in, even though a lot of that time was wasteful, and I can definitely learn learn a lot about being faster and iterating and such. Yeah, I definitely don't regret any of the quality control that I've been doing because it's paid off.
Right. Yeah, I can relate by the way, because like sometimes I would watch my old interviews and I would be like, kind of like you're like listening to your old music and like maybe it's not as refined, but there's like the more passion behind it kind of deal. Like sometimes I'll
Mhm.
like watch an old interview. I'm like, oh, I'm more self-amusing back then than now, so
Yeah.
um, anyways, I want to ask you the last question. The last question I kind of want to open the floor to you. So, is there anything that during this whole interview we did not address that you wish we address that you kind of wanted to discuss? So I'd like to leave this open to you. It's like, what would you like us to discuss that we haven't discussed yet? Because this is your time essentially. You reached out to this interview, and whatever it is
Yeah.
that you'd like to talk about, let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's tricky because, of course, it's, ops. I'm like obsessed with this stuff. So I could talk for hours if I really wanted to, but I guess, I guess I'm curious about TI versus TE. Um, because, I've mentioned, making some friends in the past few years that like I've been really helpful. And part of that is like, a couple of them at least being, masculine TI, so it's like, or masculine TE, so it's like this opposite um, thinking function. It's like totally different, but it's the same thing. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I guess I guess I'm curious what yeah, how do you experience your feminine TE? Because that one's kind of a weird one. I almost don't know what it is.
I think the only thing I could say is, the fact that I have it in a savior state, right? So I will like execute to try to make something work. Um, but I'm always insecure about it. I'm always second guessing myself. I'm like, did I get the logic right? Is this even gonna work? Like even though like I did all the consumer already, I tested it and like I know it works. Like for example, like I've been to over like 100 countries, so I know how to do travel booking really well.
Uh-huh.
But I can't tell you, I cannot remember a time where I was absolutely confident with my travel booking, even though I know it's gonna work because like logically it makes sense.
Uh-huh.
I'm still insecure about it. Like I would put together like the most complex itinerary, like to save the most amount of money while going to the most amount of country, within a given time frame. And I put so much
Mhm.
thought into it, like especially because I'm double activated NT. I also have ST as a savior, right?
Uh-huh.
So like, but even then, every single time, dude, it's so annoying. Like I am insecure about it. I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna work. Like I feel like it's not gonna work. I'm like, but that doesn't make any
Uh-huh.
sense. I've already validated that it should work, but like
Yeah.
I still feel like it's
I
not
feel
gonna
that.
work. It's so annoying, like every time, like whether I'm making a YouTube video, I'm doing anything with travel, anything. The feminine TE is like just so insecure. It's so annoying. And
Mhm.
dude, the only way for me to honestly like improve on it is to just publish or just do it, right? Like just book the travel
Mhm.
plan or publish the YouTube video. Just do it, right? And then
Yeah.
the feedback I get will tell me if I got it right or wrong. And usually
Yeah.
I probably get it like 80% right. Like I do get it wrong and I beat myself up for it. But
Mhm.
but overall, like I can always backward rationalize like well, like in the bigger scope of things, like it will still help you. You'll learn something from the mistakes, and mistakes are not a bad thing. Mistakes actually help you grow and learn, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I feel that. It's kind of like, because the feminine functions, their whole thing seems to be like just being ready to just like dissolve immediately and like not have like, a stable structure over time. So it's like you kind of need like a meta program to be like, keep track of like, no, you've done fine. You have the track record. You have the muscle memory for this to do it right. Um,
right.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I
I've
mean, dude,
noticed. Yeah, that.
I just want to say something before you continue. Sorry, uh,
Yeah, yeah.
dude, you have masculine NI, so do you think that's helping you validate the TI then? Because it's like my pattern tells me that it's been correct in the past, so I should just trust that.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, I do think that helps definitely.
Anyway, so what
Yeah, I
did you
guess
want to
I guess
say?
it's the detail. Yeah, it's the thinking and the details that I'm really like, did I get this right? I have to like double check stuff. Like my emails, I check that like over and over again, like multiple times, even though it's not like it's gonna change suddenly. It's like
Yeah.
it's really weird.
Well, it makes
Um,
sense because like it's feminine SE, right? So it's like
yeah, yeah.
maybe the words change,
Yeah. It does seem like that's a thing too. It's like it's not just that the functions are handling the sudden change, it's like they expect things to like change suddenly. So it's like it can be very frantic, especially if it's an extroverted one, because it's like there's so many things to track and they could just be moving like if I'm not looking at them.
Right, right.
But yeah, but the yeah, masculine thinking is like kind of crazy. Like seeing that, it's like how do I don't know how they do it, but like yeah, like masculine TE at the other end. It's like I see them. Yeah, they're just like collecting this like array of like tools that it's just like this bit of logic does this period, and then they're just going at problems like there's grab those few blocks, stack them quick, and then that's it. And if something's wrong, it's like, oh, just swap that one out, put this one in, and it just yeah. It's it's kind of scary.
I think they have to though, because it's like, you have masculine FE, right? So you store the tribe's emotions, right? So like you're aware of like
Yeah,
someone feeling bad. So you have to do something about it, 'cause otherwise it's gonna bother you too, right? So I think like with the
yeah,
masculine TE people, something similar is happening where like, like this thing's not working for this person. I better help them and make it work for them because like it's gonna
uh-huh.
bother me that it's not working for them. You know what I mean? You know?
Yeah, yeah, and it very much it seems to stay put. It's like the masculine functions seem to pick up where they left off. It's like they just set it, and then it's like it's there, and then they come back to it, and it's still the same unless they've changed it or something else has come and like knocked it out of place.
Right.
Um, yeah, as for this was something I didn't mention with masculine FE, but like that can go wrong sometimes where it's like I'll log somebody's emotion and then I'll just assume it's still the same. So if it's like if I saw somebody get mad, I'll just assume they're still mad until I see that they're not mad otherwise. So it's like
Oh, I see.
yeah, it is, it's a demon, so it's like biased negatively. Um and I suppose it doesn't help too that the NI also being solid is like constructing a pattern where maybe it shouldn't sometimes, where it's like I'm trying to build a larger pattern of like, wait, no, people aren't like that. They're not like get upset about something and then just stay mad forever until I personally see them that they're not like that doesn't make any sense.
Right. Yeah. Well, especially if the
Like
person's
their
FI.
emotions are their own and they're changing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, especially if they have FI, right? Because people with FI can resolve their own emotions, right? It's not like FE where you have to talk it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so maybe like you are on point. Maybe like you have to go back where you left off if that person has like FE possibly. But if they have feminine FE, they probably
Mhm.
forgot that feeling already also because it's feminine, right? So,
Yeah.
it's only basically
Yeah.
like
I
the masculine.
guess
It sounds like it's
yeah,
pretty much a projection of yourself then. That's what you're trying to do.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I just need to be waiting until like am I seeing them get upset at the same things consistently, or is it like am I sensing that it's a like further issue like growing underneath, I suppose. But other than that, I'm trying to let go of the momentary emotions, I suppose, and like realize that's a thing. It's like, oh yeah, people just kind of react to stuff sometimes very aggressively, but then it just kind of passes. It's like that is the thing. It's like I to need to remember that, but it's difficult.
Yeah, yeah, dude, you need to SEFE to like gather the facts. You need to like validate in real time, right? To make sure that the FE is still
Yeah.
accurate, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. We'll wrap up the interview here. So, Arel, thanks for coming out
Okay.
and sharing more about your life, being this specific type,
Yeah.
a specific rare type too. So I think a lot of people that's watching this going to be very intrigued to see what like, like more FM ISTPs, right?
Yeah. 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 I'm glad we could make this work. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, yeah, sweet. All right, well, take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. And
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah. You too.
take care.
See ya.